really special guests. I got to meet this woman last year at, y'all remember me talking about it, kind of babbly, the Northwest Tarot Symposium. Well, it's on again this year. And this is the program. I mean, it looks like a magazine. This is the program you take home that tells you who was there and what you did. And I wanted to get y'all revved up about this conference. It's amazing. True story, I'd never done any tarot conferences before in my life until this one. I was freaking terrified. I was going as a presenter and I was seriously afraid. But this is Katrina Wynne. Katrina is known as many things. She does dream work. She's a tarot counselor. She does a professional, let me read it, professional tarot consulting certification course. And it's way more than just laying the cards out. She's teaching you interpersonal relationships. She's working with you to make you a better guide for people, because reading tarot can be a lot like going to a therapist. And so as a tarot reader, I've got to be damn careful about my lines. Katrina, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
What a joy to be with you, Arwen. I'm really thrilled that you invited me to be part of your intimate little videos and sharing our excitement and our passion for tarot and oracles and all things magical.
Now, I have questions for you. Since that was my first one, I don't think that was your first tarot conference, right? You've been to one or two before?
Actually, my first tarot conference was with the ATA many, many moons ago, and that was about, oh boy, do I remember that one. That was 2001, and we actually had it in Portland the weekend before 9/11. So in other words, my presentation was on Sunday, 9/9, I believe, 2001. And of course, tarot people can really resonate with this. In my presentation, one of my students pulled the Tower card and had been asking me about, well, is this a negative card? Or, and I went on to tell the story of a client I had worked with in the past who was trying to make a decision. And in that decision, he was trying to decide, do I stay in New York and continue working with the fire department? Or do I move to Los Angeles, closer to my mother, and become a plumber? And in the reading, we got the Tower card. And in my style of reading, I don't interpret the cards for people. I really work in terms of an exploration and bring up the dreaming in the card with the client. And this client's reaction to the Tower card was incredibly positive. And what he told me was a story of when he had been called to the, what we call now the first bombing of the Twin Towers there, and how that was a high point in his life. It just really got him in line with his purpose and what had meaning for him. So I can only guess, based on that reading, he may have gone back to New York and continued with the fire department. And who knows, he may have gone to the second bombing of the Twin Towers. I think about that sometimes. And so this is the story I shared in that presentation. And I was letting this person know that, yeah, of course, there's a whole range of interpretations for any particular card. But in that one, I really wanted to stay close to my client's understanding and meaning in the card. But those of us in the tarot world realize that that card was also a premonition of much larger global things that are going on. And the Tower card, how it affects all of us. So yeah, that was the first tarot conference I attended and actually had the privilege of presenting at.
What would you say, do you think newts, the people, and here's why, you see the golden newt here, guys? It's because it's NWTS. So somebody, I don't even know who.
It was the DeForest. Let's talk about the DeForest. Oh my goodness. Jadzia and Jay DeForest are the mommy daddy spiritual guides and business geniuses behind Newts. They started it about, this will be the third year, and they pulled together some friends. And this is something that some of us had been, I live near well, 4 hours from Portland. It's in Oregon. So I live relatively close to that. And so quite a few of us have been kind of gossiping and talking among ourselves for years that we'd really love to have something in the Pacific Northwest. And bless their hearts, they just jumped in fully, brought in some friends, and started organizing this event. And I had the wonderful opportunity to kind of fill in as the registrar for the first 2 years, which was really fun getting to see all those names. I saw your name as you got registered last year. And so I was really looking forward to seeing you, my Texas sister. And then another wonderful organizer, part of that event, is Pamela Steele, who's up in Canada. And what she brought to the mix, which is really unique, I haven't seen this at too many other conferences, and I've been to and taught at quite a few conferences. She brought in the idea of an art show and auction. And that way, people who develop decks or do tarot or oracle related art have an opportunity to show their works, and we as the public have an opportunity to purchase it or auction, put in a bid. So and the other really cool thing that they've done is, besides all the amazing presentations that go on Friday through Sunday and a really fun party on Saturday night,
yes,
and yeah, they also simultaneously have sort of a psychic and all the wonderful goods that go along with that fair. And that goes on Friday through Sunday. I believe Friday night, and this is the policy they had last year, is the people who are participating in the conference get kind of like first dibs. They get to go down and shop and stuff. And then Saturday and Sunday, it's open to the public. It's in a whole different part of the hotel. And so people can come and go and enjoy just coming to that part of the event. While those of us who are going to the conference presentations, we're in a different part of the hotel, not too far away from each other.
And it's free. I mean, the psychic fair part.
Saturday and Sunday, free.
I mean, you're going to pay your readers. You're going to pay for what you get. You're not going in and getting free goodies.
Right.
There's paper goodies, though, which is kind of fun. I know that last year there was a swap table. I don't know if that's only for the conference people or not.
That's for everybody, but it's very much like they do at Reader Studio in New York, where you do a trade. You bring some. I love it. Okay, let me put it into this context, even though this isn't what they were thinking, but it's very similar. So I'm part Native. My previous husband was member of one of the consolidated tribes in this area, and we have a tradition up here called a potlatch. Potlatch is a giveaway, and that's kind of where the term potluck came from. So a potlatch means I have an overabundance of wonderful joy and these items that I want to gift to you. And so it's a giveaway, and then we put it on the table, and then you can pick something up if something's calling to you, and it's not a one-for-one thing where you put one thing down and you can pick one thing up. It's very, very open. There aren't any rules. And last year, I mean, I don't usually pick things up, but last year I picked up the perfect thing. I was so excited. Wald Amberstone had put together with his father a really interesting deck and book set many years ago. I don't have it here in front of me, so I can't do a little show and tell. But Wald Amberstone also came to NWTS last year. So I got to talk to him about it in detail, and he got to sign it. And that's one of the beautiful things about being at these conferences, folks. If you've never been to a tarot conference, I want you to know this was my first impression when I went to a huge conference, the ATS, that used to be in Chicago. And of course, I'm using all these acronyms. I got to remember what it stands for. No, the ITS, International Tarot Society. Anyway, so that's where I got to meet a lot of my tarot heroes and sheroes, like Mary Greer and Kathleen Matthews. And anyway, long story short, my wonderful impression is these people are amazing. Not only do we share this passion for tarot and oracles and things, but they're very accessible. They're right there, real people, just like you and me, ready to have conversations when there's openings in the schedule. There's plenty of openings to kind of go out for lunch or dinner or have fun at the parties in the evenings. Mm-hmm. And so it really is, to me, a coming together of our tribe, or our community. And it's where we exchange ideas. It reminds me very much in a lot of the traditional ways for all of us nature-based people, where we used to get together and have our powwows, or we would have our gatherings, and we would exchange the latest tool or the latest idea, or maybe you've been collecting some herbs and I have herbs from my territory, and we're going to exchange them. And so I really see these conferences as a hotbed of wonderful exchanges and connections.
And I agree with you. One of the best things for me was when I got there, I was rooming with somebody I knew. Karen and I have done retreats with Joanna Powell Colbert. So I was really excited, one, to see Karen because she's a doll. But we walked down to the bar restaurant because we were hungry. It was the very first day. And I walk in and there's Mary Kay Greer. There is, she's going to beat me with a stick. My mind has just blanked. But anyway, there are three people that I was dying to meet. And I sat down with them, and I have panic anxiety disorder. A lot of people don't know that. But it affects me on a social level because I get really wound up in my head. And then I feel like it's all presenting outwardly. And so I think, oh my God, I'm out there, blah, 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 at people. Generally, I'm not. But my perception of me does that. But I'm there meeting, and I think it's safe to say that Mary Kay Greer is one of the biggest names in our tarot community. And she was so, hi, how are you? Sit down, nice to meet you, friendly. It was like sitting on somebody's porch in Texas and just having a cup.
It really is. It's very welcoming. And, we have this is part of my theory anyway, Arwen. A lot of us who get attracted to things like tarot and oracles, we end up being like the oddballs, the folks that don't quite fit into, let's say, consensus society, consensus reality. We're resonating maybe on a different vibration. And so when our vibrations come together, there's a wonderful harmony, and that feels really good.
It does. And if there's no other reason to go to this conference, y'all, that's it. You fit in, you sync up with people. It's and the workshops that you can go to are so varied. You
Yes.
can go to workshops about Lenormand, about Oracle, about dream work. And it's not crammed. You don't feel like you have like 3 choices every hour. That's how it was last year. So yeah, you're going to miss out. The other 2 are always cool. You just have to kind of pick your favorite. I mean, when I did my presentation, somebody else was doing one that I really wanted to go to. So I was like, could I not be at mine?
Well, now you've put your finger on the pulse of one of the challenges of conferences, depending on how they're organized. And I've been to quite a few. So some of the conferences will have main speakers like Reader Studios in New York, produced by the Tarot School. And they'll have your 3 main speakers, and then they'll have all these breakout study groups in the evening where you get to choose one among maybe 5 or 6, which is really tough. But then you have conferences like TarotCon, TarotCon has sort of like the same idea where you have your main speakers and then your breakout groups in the afternoon. So with BATS, which is the Bay Area Tarot Symposium that used to be down in San Francisco, and with NWTS, they actually have 3 choices per session. And fortunately, last year they increased the sessions to close to an hour and a half, which is much more decent. I much prefer that. They got a lot of wonderful feedback about that and really heard it. And so you've got these 3 choices, but I noticed last year they brought in Jamie Elford as the presenter coordinator, and she did a beautiful job of really trying to say, hey, rather than putting all the Lenormand people together, we're going to make sure we have one Lenormand option spread out throughout the schedule, so folks who came in just for that will be able to, plug into one of those classes. And the other thing is when you register for NWTS, they actually have a survey there, and they want to know 2 basic different things. First off, what's your interest? Is it tarot? Is it oracles? Is it Lenormand specifically? So those are three choices you have. The other thing they want to know is, are you a novice or a beginner? Are
Yeah.
you more intermediate or advanced? Or are you a professional? And not only are you one of these levels, but what kinds of classes are you interested in? For instance, I could be, which I am, a professional, but I'm still interested in beginning classes in certain topics. And so I think they do a really good job of serving what people's interests are and trying to match that up with the presenters. Another thing that they try to do, which I truly deeply appreciate, is they like to mix it up and give different people opportunities to present each year rather than just going back to the same folks. And so they want to bring in people from all over the place. Like you came from quite a distance last year. And we've got Bridget. Some people know her as Tarot Biddy, coming all the way from Australia this year. So it's a unique and rare opportunity to mix and mingle with folks that normally you wouldn't see.
And that I think is one of the biggest things, because everybody, when I was president of the American Tarot Association, I was really surprised to find out how big our organization was, and to realize that there was a very small percentage that actually wanted to read for other people. A great number of the ATA folk want to study the tarot for themselves. Some of that use it in their practice. Like I'm Wiccan, I'm pagan, and so I do tarot work with spells. And I was really surprised, though, to find that not everybody wanted to run out and throw a shingle up. I guess that's a good thing. But, if so, I want to really impress people or impress upon people the levels. Nobody's going to look at you and go, what do you mean you just bought your first deck? They're going to go, that's so cool. Here's what my first deck was. What do you like about yours? They're engaging you. They're not. I didn't meet anybody who had their nose in the air, nothing. It was such a friendly group. And I think that most tarot readers that I've ever met, and I think you're right about that outsider, when you find your tribe, it's like, cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful resonance. And I mean, even the tarot speaks to that in many ways. It's like, rather than focusing on our differences, there really is more of a honoring our diversity. And even though we may even have different styles of relating to the tarot or oracles, we all fall under some umbrella here, which is, hey, we're diviners or we're readers. And it really doesn't matter if you do it professionally or not. In fact, even in my own, you mentioned earlier, my professional tarot consulting it's actually called a certificate course. And I have folks who go through that because they just want to understand the tarot better, not because they want to put a shingle out and start a business. Mm-hmm. And that's the opportunities at all these different conferences. I love them all, to tell you the truth. I love the fact that we have one right here in Portland.
That's very nice.
Yeah, nice to have one in the backyard. I'm glad each one has its own unique personality and style. And I always make a point of going to at least 1 to 2 conferences a year.
And something I want to point out to people, Katrina mentioned Walt Amberstone came to Newt's. That's not such a big deal until you realize that the Reader's Studio in New York, which is one of the premier, to me, conferences, because it's been going on a while, he's one of the organizers of it. And he came out not to do anything other than say, I think this is great, and I wanted to come and enjoy a conference. And I thought that was that's to me, I didn't see any of this, I am world, I have this old, who are you people?
Well, I'll put it this way. And this is where you have another type of diversity in the tarot world. But between Newt's, Bats, and Reader's Studio, and I would even include the London Tarot Conference, and maybe even some of our friends down under in Australia, There's a very much an openness and an exchange and a flow of energy and interest. There's one in particular that has a different philosophy, a different business model. I will not name the name, but I'm just going to say, ideally we'd love all the conferences to be that way, but most of us are.
Yeah, and competition comes up. We're human, and it's gonna be. I think that's gonna happen. But what I see, just what you were saying, and if I could go to the London Tarot Conference and the Reader Studio, that would make me a happy, happy girl. I have.
Well, then, Arwen, I'm going to hold you to that. I'm going to hold you to that. Okay. I want you to be a happy goer. I want you to have lots of joy in your life, which means you need to come to more and more of these conferences. And so let's talk about anxiety for a moment. Is that right? Just for a moment? Now, I know you know about these things, but just in case somebody else is watching or listening to this. So if you're feeling a little anxious, these are the kinds of things that bring up anxiety for people. All right. First off, yeah, just being in a group of people you don't know. That's the first thing that would make anyone relatively nervous, including myself. Another thing that can make you nervous is the arrangements. How do I get there? Where am I going to stay? Most of these conferences are held in hotels, and so you can stay in some of the rooms. The really cool thing is that most of these conferences also have a Facebook page. For instance, Northwest Tarot Symposium has a Facebook page. It's NW Tarot Symposium, and then of course it's on Facebook. They try to help you by, hey, here's the hotel, and here's how to get in touch with the hotel. And by the way, they have discount rates for our event. The other thing you can do is, if you're looking for a roommate because you want to share the cost of the room, you can put notices on those web pages. And so that kind of, maybe if you are on a tight budget, that makes it a little more affordable for you. Some of us plan way ahead. We start looking for those cheap flights. And the cool thing, and I'll say this is the best thing about these two conferences that I'm the most familiar with, is when you go to NWTS and you fly into Portland. Well, Portland's very accessible. It's an international airport, relatively inexpensive flights, and we have this wonderful light rail system called the MAX system. And you can you can take the MAX anywhere around Portland. But the hotel we're staying at, which is in Clackamas, is not exactly in Portland. It's a little bit east and south of Portland. But Clackamas, the hotel that we're staying at, I think it's called the Monarch, they actually has a shuttle. So you get this free shuttle, takes you to the hotel. You share a room with somebody, and by the way, the rooms there are the least expensive of any conference I've ever been to. So I think NWTS is the most affordable conference for people, especially if you've never been to one. So it's very accessible.
And they just announced that they have actually lowered, Jada Forrest mentioned that they've lowered the registration by $30 because
That's right.
A good deal come up. So they pass, instead of saying, money in our pockets,
yeah,
they pass it on to the rest of us.
Yes, and so you can really register for a 3-day event for under $200 for the registration. All right, and so now I just want to mention Reader Studio for a moment, because one of the conveniences about that event is they're right across the street from LaGuardia Airport. So that's, of course, the place you'd want to fly into and then just take the shuttle over to the Marriott. But anyway, so NWTS is probably the least expensive, incredibly accessible, and plus what's really nice and inexpensive, if you want to come in a day early or stay a day late and just have fun going around Portland, I would say you're a couple of blocks from the MAX station. Just get on the MAX train. I think the ticket's like $5 for the whole day, and you can just wander around, go to really cool bookstores, metaphysical bookstores. You can go to Powell's. There's no sales tax in Portland, by the way, in Oregon, so you can buy books, not pay sales tax. They have a great selection.
So, Katrina, I want to ask you one last thing, and what I want to know is, it's a hard question. Well, I'd ask you my red sauce, green sauce question since you're from Texas, but we'll let that one pass because I'm in New Mexico now and it's a big debate. But what I want to know is, what is the one thing that you think anybody, any level, would get out of going to NWTS?
I honestly believe we've already touched upon it. A sense of community, and then meeting people face to face. Because here, we're in the Ethernet in a way. We're in this, what is it called? Anyway, we're just in cyberspace, and it makes a huge difference when you meet somebody in person. I think it's important. Maybe I'm just old. I'm 60, So I like the meeting people in person. I think that's a really, really important part of going to one of these conferences. So it's not just a name and then you have some kind of perception about the person. You actually get to meet them and they get to meet you too.
Yeah, I think that the tribe, community, that's what I walked away from. I met Melissa from Little Fox Tarot,
Mm-hmm.
and have since that meeting, I got to meet her and her husband. I've really connected with them, or she, on a different level than just this. And y'all know I love social media. If you don't see my name on social media, I haven't found out about it yet, because I've got Aquarius rising and I'm just like, bloop, 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 bloop. But the tribe and the community, and for me, it's a silly thing, the ability to hug somebody that I really admire is very huge for me. So, and I got to do a lot of hugging. I even got to do a selfie with the selfie queen, Rana George.
That's true. That's true. In fact, I remember when her book first came out, and I had already read it, and I brought it to her, and she loves, in fact, I even wore a little lipstick today. She loves the lipstick, and my book was the first book she ever kissed with her lipstick. And one time at another conference, she put lipstick on me, and then I said, "Oh, I've been Ronified." So anytime I put lipstick on, I'm Ronified. And actually, I want to try to pronounce her name correctly. It's Rona, something like Rona. Anyway, Ronja. Anyway, I may not be doing it right. I apologize, my dear, but we love you dearly. Now, I've got a slightly controversial question for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
So what's my other name? I put you on the spot, didn't I?
Yeah, well, she's making fun of me because of me calling Lady Grave Dancer Headstone Ballerina, because I couldn't think of Lady Grave Dancer's name. But you are caring, Wynne. Because when I first met you, I got this immediate sense of caring, and you're so real and so authentic. It almost made me cry. I cry at the drop of a hat. And so when I meet somebody that does that to me, it's like a key in for me. So it's caring, Wynne.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Because, that's the thing about tribes. When you get initiated, you're given a name. And so thank you for initiating me and inviting me into your tribe.
Well, welcome to the Joy Seeker Patrol. But I'm going to let you go now. I know that we had a late start because we had some technical issues going on, but I am so excited that Katrina came on. I want to have you back on because I'd like to talk to you about, do one of my interviews like I did with Ravenflower and Grave Dancer and get your ghost stories and your witchy stories and your stuff. So
yes.
This wasn't fun.
All right. Well, I hope to see all of you somewhere around the first weekend of March in Portland, Oregon. And keep in mind, it's a 3-day event. It starts on Friday, and registration starts at noon. So come early and have plenty of time to have fun and things to trade. And, of course, a lot of horse stories to take back home with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And seek joy, y'all. We'll talk later.